All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to something that we haven't talked about a lot, and that's obviously been in the news every day. I think we're going to go ahead and give a very different take and different perspectives. I want to ask questions that I haven't heard been asked before, and it's just going to be talk about the coronavirus and the impact on the upcoming season. I mean, it's inevitable to talk about it. Basically depends if we play or not. I think my view is that the NFL has a lot better control on this than basically every other sport right now, because baseball's trying to get back as soon as possible. NBA is trying to get back as soon as possible. NFL can wait a couple months. They're going to figure it out. I think the NFL is in the best situation. I think the most interesting situation going on right now is the college football situation with the NCAA and what's going to happen. I'll open it up to the rest of the guys to talk first, but then I want to ask a couple questions to see what they have to think about it.
You said something that intrigued me, Zach. You said the NFL and football in general is in a better situation. Um, I would like, I would kind of like to say that they're more in the same boat, just due to the simple fact that football requires those couple months leading up to the season are so much more important than the couple months leading up to any other sport. I feel like the install, the getting guys like together, because it's also being such like how football has so much bigger teams, that just getting everyone comfortable with each other, like I said, the install, the game plans, getting everyone to know each other. I just feel like those factors weigh in a lot leading up to the season. And if we start getting closer to the season and things still aren't opened up, then a lot of these like rookies that are coming in, guys that are on new teams,
First
stuff
year
like
head
that,
coaches.
yeah, first year head coaches, those guys are going to struggle a lot, I feel like. And I don't feel like that's talked about enough.
I agree. I agree, but I'm talking more about from the perspective. I understand training camp has to happen. I understand all that. The players got to be together, but I'm talking being able to control it, kind of being able. The NFL is going to be able to basically almost isolate their players away from other people, keep them together, and once everyone gets tested and cleared, like they're together, they're going to be together. I don't know how the housing is going to work, what's going to work
Wait,
there,
but you
how it's
said
going to go on
tested
with
and
these
cleared
tests.
like it's a one-time thing. Tested is
No,
twice a
yes,
week.
yes, but one question that I really wanted to get to is you start talking about these college campuses, and Dave, you play football, you understand this. It's you in at these big schools, 30 other thousand people, and you're communicating with all of them. And how this thing spreads, it's going to be really interesting in college to see what happens when an Auburn player gets the coronavirus when they're playing. What are they going to do? What's going to happen?
They're not gonna play. They're gonna be
Yeah,
quarantined.
I think it's
I mean,
simple.
it's very simple. I think you're trying. I
Well,
disagree with what you're saying that football's in a different spot. I think every sport's in the same spot. And I'd like to
Mhm.
take the opportunity to read some of the things that have come out in Major League Baseball's proposal, because these are going to apply to every athlete. When it comes to before I do that though, when it comes to college football, the reason they're in a tougher spot, because like Zach said, campus is like a bubble in a way. So if one campus has a hot spot, that's going to be a problem. Certain regions of the country are going to be in tougher spot than others. The campuses, in a lot of cases, a lot of these big schools are working closely with state governments, even closer in the NFL, which is a private entity. So you're going to see a lot of. I mean, California already is saying we're shutting our schools down, but the South is saying we're playing football. And I think if I'm a recruit that's in California, I'm transferring. If I'm at UCLA, Cal, I mean, there's a lot of other states in that area, the West Coast, like Washington, or maybe even like a college up in New York, like at Rutgers in New Jersey. I think there's a lot of where you are going to college is going to be a huge problem if there's certain colleges that make different decisions about the fall.
I guess I'm just kind of saying, like, what happens when you play if so in college they play a team, right, and then all of a sudden players get tested, and you're in your conference, so you have these certain teams. What happens when a player on Auburn tests positive after a game last week? What that team now, does that team have to not play? Because it's going to
No,
be a whole
you'll
team
have to be
not going
able
to be
to
able to
test
play if it
everybody on
happens.
every team.
Well, I'll take it a step further. What if in the NFL? What if it's the Super Bowl? Or we'll say college football. What if Clemson's about to play Ohio State in the national championship game? Trevor Lawrence gets a positive test. He doesn't have a symptom in sight, because it's been said at least 50% of people who get coronavirus don't show symptoms. He's got no symptoms, and after a whole season of hard work, he's got to sit out and miss that game. And I understand it, but that's going to cause a lot of problems. And it's a long way from Michael Jordan's flu game. Just crazy how different it is, even though I understand why.
The way it spreads, it's not just going to be Trevor Lawrence that tests positive if he tests
Mm-hmm.
positive, especially in a college football locker room. It's just like the locker room, like you're sharing everything. Like you don't share soap and stuff. You don't, but you're in close proximity in those locker rooms. They're not like I'm at the D1 facility. I'm sure it's different than D3, but I'm sure the locker room's really fucking clean and stuff. But it's not. You're in close proximity. You're eating together. It's not just going to be Trevor Lawrence. It's going to be multiple players on the team. So what happened? Like it's going to be so interesting. And I think the NCAA knows they probably shouldn't play at least in the fall, but because of all the stuff, the variables that college has to go with. But I don't think the NCAA is going to be able to say anything. I think this could be my hot take is I think this could be the falling apart of the NCAA.
Well, one thing we haven't even mentioned is the money aspect. A lot of these universities count on the revenue from football for their universities to run.
And they're losing money as it is.
Does
are we
anyone
saying
want
all
to
this
say anything
assuming?
about, I think the falling apart of the NCAA.
I mean, we're saying a lot of this assuming people are going to be on campus. I think we're going to see more and more and more in the next few months that if there is football, it's only going to be the football team on campus, or it's only going to be fall sports on campus. Because I think increasingly, like the chances each day we look at it, I think there's less and less like the chance that like any of us go back to school in the fall, like for in-person classes.
Yeah,
I think
but
personally,
I don't.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you're good. You're good.
I think personally, if I had to give my take, I think football's played at a conference by conference based schedule, and then they go from there. I think you're only going to play within your conference within your region. I think the real conversation where it gets real interesting are the states like California that are trying their best to not allow the teams to play, what those athletic directors and what those conferences are going to do.
Mm-hmm.
What statement are the athletic directors and the NCAA sending if they send football players to campus to play football, but they don't send the kids to the campus to go to school? What kind of message does that send out?
That's not going to happen. Because what'll happen is they're going to start cutting the other sports. Volleyball, sorry, goodbye. Tennis, goodbye. Women's basketball, sorry, not cutting it. Every sport that's not football and then men's college basketball, Zach, I hate to say this, but every sport that's not men's college basketball and football is going to be looked at closely because if the college is losing revenue all over the place, not just with football. People are going to take gap years. People aren't going to stay on campus. They're not going to pay for dorms and housing.
Yes.
I mean, it's really going to impact a lot of things.
Yes, but I think that's why I also think it's going to be conference by conference. I think this is really going to be conference by conference and that's why I think the NCAA could fall apart right here. I don't think the NCAA has a say in this. If the SEC wants to play football, the SEC will play football regardless of what the NCAA says. Does anyone disagree?
I don't disagree with that.
I've always been a believer that if you take if you take half the SEC, take the 30 best teams that are always there and form their own league, college football will be better. I know that's an unpopular opinion. I know a lot of people love their rivalries, and I love it too. But I think I'd be fascinated if they took 30 teams that get all the big recruits from Perry picked them and had their own league. I think that'd be really cool.
You get the SEC, you get Texas, Oklahoma, Oregon, like Ohio State, all Penn State, all those schools. I feel like at that point, what else is there? What are you missing?
Yeah, I also wanted to I wanted to read some of baseball's proposal too because there's some incredible things that are going to be relevant to football. They can't take Ubers. They can't shower after games. They can't stand shoulder to shoulder for the anthem. They can't spit sunflower seeds at all. They can't throw the ball around the infield after an out. They can't shake hands. They can't leave the hotel for anything else other than a game. Good luck telling a college football player to do that, especially when the bars are packed at their school. They must take a couple tests a week, and they must take their temperatures daily before they leave the house. And I think that's going to translate to all sports.
Well, that's just not going to happen. Plain and simple. That's just nobody's going to follow.
That is going to happen in baseball. That's going to happen in baseball, Mark. That's something that they've
actually agreed. Every sport.
No,
they haven't agreed to that yet. That's the proposal. That's the owner's proposal.
Yeah,
they haven't.
No, it's the owner's proposal, but it also they chimed into the managers with that. Rogue.
Well, I talked about this earlier in football that it's just so much harder to manage just because you got the bigger squads. In baseball, basketball, you have those 15, 20-man squads you can keep better track of. That's a lot different than, especially college ball. You got like almost 100 guys that are a part of the team. Like that's just so much of a drastic difference. But yeah, I think at what point, like, obviously those things aren't bad, but you have to wonder if they're going to start adding stipulations where like these athletes start becoming like prisoners, like not obviously they're playing a sport, obviously that's fun, but like I don't know.
They would almost have to basically isolate the college football players to be able to do it. Like there's no way that they're going to be able to walk around campus, do all the normal stuff at school, and then go play football, because I promise you, someone with a big name will get coronavirus. They will test positive before a big game or something, and it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be really interesting what happens then. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, the NBA is already talking
I
about doing
don't.
something similar.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The NBA is already looking at facilities in Las Vegas and in Disney in Florida to completely isolate their players. One of them like in a giant area that they can like go around in there, like especially Disney. That was the proposal I read most recently in Orlando. But in which they're going to play the end of the season and then stay there throughout the playoffs. So that's what the reality we're living in. That's the reality we're going to see in a lot of sports.
Yes,
And
that's why I
honestly,
think that's why I say the NFL's in a better spot than college football. That's why I
Well,
made that
it's only
original
because of
statement.
time, and then the college. It's two discussions because there's time. The NFL football has time on its side, but the NFL versus college. The NFL is its own company with national TV contracts and doesn't rely as
Exactly.
much on attendance. College football is in attendance and the tailgates and the revenue to the town and the revenue to the school is so much. It's so much more important and so much more reliant on just people being there. NFL's national TV contracts trump everything.
and Zach mentioned keeping the football players in a bubble, and I think it's like Zach mentioned before. I think the SEC is going to be fine with that, obviously, and I just think conferences like maybe the Pac-12 won't. Like, and
Yeah.
I just that's just something that, like you guys said,
Well,
is
the
going to be
financial
something.
burden of doing that too is really hard, and I think the only conference that can really afford to do that. I mean, the big power, you only Power Fives are really going to be able to do that. And
That's fine.
I mean, Dave, what do you think's going to happen with your football season? Like, let's be honest. Like, you got it coming up. I mean,
Honestly, well, right now, I'm training as if it's gonna happen. I believe it's gonna happen. I mean, that's the best way to go about it. If I sit here and act like I don't think it's gonna happen, I feel like that leaves me less prepared if it does. So as of right now, I'm gonna expect it to happen, and I feel like athletes across the country are gonna have that same mindset. No one wants to sit here and say, "Oh, our season's gonna be canceled," you know. Like no one's gonna sit there and wallow in it. If they love the sport, they're gonna expect it to be open, and they're gonna work out and hope that they get to play this fall. You know?
Yeah, I think the good news is we're trending in the right direction. I think it's very clear that the data on this virus is different than what it was a month ago. I don't want to go too deep into it because I want to talk football, but basically, we thought the death rate was 3.5% a month and a half ago, and we shut down. We were worried hospitals would be overwhelmed. Not one hospital's been overwhelmed. I think that with this virus is a huge concern. We got to keep an eye on it, but it's also true that for people that are 24 and under and people playing college football, I'd understand if every athlete wants to play because the odds of you actually being affected by the virus are pretty low. I mean, obviously, we still have to consider people of all populations and demographics, but I think if as people learn more about this and get more optimistic, I'm hoping that it'll lead to more of a propensity for people to want to open up.
I
yeah,
wonder.
I
You
agree.
just brought an idea to my head, Rug. I wonder if they do like something like where they'd give the players a form or like something like, oh, if you don't play this year, we're not going to revoke your scholarship, but like if you want to play, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
this
Yeah,
is
they
something
might
that we're
have to because I
doing.
mean it's a personal preference thing too. It depends on your situation. Do you want to risk yourself? I mean
Mm.
it's a lot. It's just a lot to work out.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk all day about this and go on and on. There's one last question I want to talk about, and this is mainly for Dave because Dave has a little bit more insight. But when's the drop dead date that these college players have to be back on campus and getting ready for the season if the season wants to happen? When's the drop dead date? Because most people don't realize this, but most college football players in the Power Five are already back on campus getting ready. Not practice and stuff, but they're getting ready, and they're usually already back on campus. So, Dave,
I mean that depends on a lot of things, you know. Are they going to push the season back? Like how far do you want to push the season back? Like you could definitely push it back like a few like 3-4 weeks and like a whole month, and I guess that would be the farthest I would say. I mean, usually like at least for D3 programs, you're on you usually want to stay there over the summer, which I actually had planned to do this summer, which obviously going to happen because everything that's happened. But you're there throughout the summer, and then camp starts, you know, relatively end of summer and goes into the season. But I guess I would say the latest that you could start camp and start football activities would be like maybe late September, early early October, just and that'd be pushing the season back, the start of the season back like a month. And I don't know if people
Yeah.
would be more comfortable with pushing back farther than that. I don't know, like, because I don't know, because that goes into the next season. Football is a sport where
Yeah.
you need an off season. Like you can't just walk onto the field a day after playing your last season. That's not. You need an off season to get better, get stronger, learn the game a little bit more. So that's what it comes down to. How far